At a party of 30, my dad slapped me and my sister cheered. That night, I made a call that brought their world crashing down. Now they're begging. Hey, I'm Claire, 32 years old, and let me tell you, I've learned the hard way that just because someone's family doesn't mean they're loyal. Sometimes the best way to get back at people is to let them deal with the mess they've made themselves. This whole saga kicked off during what was supposed to be a fun party. My younger sis, Maris, had just bought her first house with her hubby, Henry. They threw a big housewarming bash to celebrate. Maris, at 29, has always been the family star. She got married young, had 2 kids by 25, and somehow convinced our parents she's a saint, despite making a bunch of terrible money decisions. And me? Well, I'm the black sheep, or so they say. Never mind that I've got a solid job as a financial consultant, own my own home, and even managed to buy a sweet vacation spot in the mountains. But to my parents, Gerald and Sophia, my life is pointless because I don't have kids. They couldn't care less that I'm perfectly happy with my dog, Finn, and love my independent life. So, I rock up to this party, bottle of wine and gift card in hand, to find about 30 people already partying it up. Maris greets me with a big hug, acting all chummy, and for a split second, I think maybe things are looking up between us. Boy, was I wrong. About an hour in, Maris taps her wine glass to get everyone's attention. "Thanks for coming, everyone," she gushes, laying on that sweet tone she's perfected over the years. "Henry and I are so grateful for your support." Then, bam! Her voice takes on a different edge, and I know I'm in for it. She says, "Claire, can you come over here for a minute?" My stomach lurches, but I head over. My folks are right there beside her, looking all serious, and I can tell this was going to be bad. Maris is like, "You know money's been tight with the kids and mortgage and all, Claire, right?" I nod, feeling uneasy. "We've been talking, and we think it would be super generous of you to let us use your vacation cabin," she continues, and it hits me like a ton of bricks. She's acting like I've already agreed to this. Newsflash, I haven't. Before I can respond, Mom jumps in, smiling like the cat that got the cream. "We think you should just give it to Maris and Henry," she says, like it's the most normal thing in the world. The room goes quiet, and 30 pairs of eyes are on me. I'm mortified. "You want me to give away my vacation home?" I manage to ask. Dad chimes in with his classic stern voice. "Vacation homes are for families, Claire, not just you and your dog." "Ouch!" I retort, trying to keep it together. "That dog has a name, and yes, I use the cabin to relax. It's mine, and I worked hard for it." Maris laughs, an ugly, mocking sound, and says, "Don't be selfish, Claire. Think about my kids, your niece and nephew." I shoot back. "They can have experiences at plenty of other rentals. I'm not giving up my property." Mom's mask slips, and she snaps. "You don't even have kids. What do you need a family vacation home for? Just keep walking your dog and stop being so damn selfish." The room's silent, and the cruelty stings. Dad steps up, angry. "Your sister's got real responsibilities, while you're just here taking up space. We need your resources for the actual family." His words hit like a punch. And Maris, looking smug, adds, "About time the family disappointment paid up." The place is so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. People are watching, some sheepishly looking away, others glued to the drama, but nobody steps in to help me. I say, "No," through clenched teeth. "It's my property and I'm not giving it away." That's when Dad loses it and slaps me. The smack echoes in the room, and to my shock, some people clap. Not everyone, but enough that it feels like a nightmare. Maris looks thrilled. Mom nods in approval, and Dad adjusts his shirt like he's just finished a job well done. I'm standing there, cheeks stinging and heartbroken. This is my family, and they've just torn me apart, publicly. I leave, furious and shattered, but something changes during the drive home. Cold, calculated anger takes over. I've always been the responsible one. I've bailed Maris out of jams, co-signed loans, and even helped with their house down payment, all while quietly managing our parents' finances because Dad couldn't handle it anymore. That night, I make some calls. First to the bank, where I co-signed Maris's mortgage. I explain there's been family trouble, and I want to know my options about being a co-signer. They tell me they'll reassess the loan. I wonder what'll happen if Maris and Henry can't qualify on their own. The power dynamics are about to shift, and I'm ready to let them face the music. So I got some pretty alarming calls. First off, there was this whole loan situation that was about to blow up. Then, I had to give up control over my parents' finances. Over the years, I kept track of everything and discovered some shocking stuff. Dad had been secretly sending money to Maris, money that was meant for Mom's care as her memory was getting worse. The loans to Maris, which she never paid back, added up to over $30,000. Even worse, Dad was opening up credit accounts in Mom's name without her knowing, given her cognitive decline. I took screenshots and saved bank statements and emails I had legally accessed as their financial agent before I stepped down. Next, I called Adult Protective Services. I reported a suspected case of financial elder abuse, telling them I had proof of someone taking advantage of an elderly woman with memory issues, even using her name to open credit accounts. I showed them everything, the bank statements, evidence of the credit applications, all of it. The worker told me they needed to start an investigation right away, and that they would freeze the accounts to stop any further exploitation. Then I got in touch with Maris's job. She was working as a bookkeeper, and her boss, Ms. Benton, cared a lot about her team's financial integrity. A quick look at public records showed Maris had some recent judgments against her for debts she didn't report at work. I didn't accuse anyone, just asked Ms. Benton if she knew about these hidden financial issues that might affect Maris's job, which involved handling the company's money. The next call was to the IRS. Dad's loans to Maris should have been considered taxable income since they were never repaid. I sent the IRS all the evidence of transfers, loans, and gifts that went over the annual limit. Again, I gathered this info legally while managing Mom and Dad's finances. I also reached out to Child Protective Services. This wasn't a baseless claim. I'd seen concerning stuff on Maris's social media, like her leaving kids alone or using meds to help them sleep so she could have her own time. I collected and sent all the screenshots for a wellness check. Finally, I talked to Henry's boss. Henry worked in construction, and his employer had strict policies about domestic abuse. Photos of my bruised face and witness accounts from people at that disastrous party told a clear story of a troubled family. I just laid out the facts and left it to the company to decide if Henry met their employment standards. 3 days later, Maris called me, furious. "What did you do?" she yelled. The bank was calling their loan, demanding full payment in 30 days or they'd foreclose. I told her I'd removed myself as a co-signer. "You can't do this," she pleaded. "We'll lose the house." I replied calmly, "You should have thought about that before you embarrassed me." Maris switched to a sickly sweet tone, apologizing for the party drama. I reminded her that her kids, the ones she was so worried about, might want to ask their grandpa where all Grandma's care money went. She got quiet, clearly rattled. The next day, Dad called, his voice shaky. "We need to talk. People are asking about your mom's accounts." I told him I'd handed over all the financial records to the proper authorities. He protested, but I reminded him that as power of attorney, I was legally required to protect Mom's interests. What he called loans were actually theft from a vulnerable adult. Cops were very interested in his credit card antics under Mom's name. Things unfolded fast. Maris lost her job when her boss discovered not just hidden judgments, but also some creative accounting Maris used to cover her tracks. The IRS audit hit Maris hard with penalties and back taxes for not declaring over $40,000 in income. CPS found enough issues during their wellness check to keep them on Maris and Henry's case, and they lost their jobs. 2 weeks later, my cousin Nana called, Maris's best friend since forever. She'd been at the party, horrified by what went down. "Claire, they planned it," she admitted, her voice trembling. Maris had been plotting to put me on the spot about giving up my cabin, banking on my reluctance to fight back in front of others. When public humiliation didn't work, she intended to take me to court, using my history of financially helping her as leverage. I asked Nana why she was telling me this now. "Because Maris called me yesterday," she said. "She's desperate." Seems like Maris is thinking about suing you because she blames you for messing up her family. She thinks you're doing all this out of spite, not because she and your parents broke the law or anything. I don't really know what she's up to, but she's been asking around about your job, your income, and where you hang out. She's also trying to get our mutual friends to take her side by painting you as some kind of villain who's out to ruin the lives of innocent kids out of revenge. Classic Maris, right? Always playing the victim and never owning up to her mistakes. But hey, this time I've got a heads up, and I'm going to use it. I told Nina that if Maris tries to reach out again, she should record the conversation. Nina wasn't sure why, but I explained that Maris is about to find out I'm way better at this than she ever thought. After I got off the phone with Nina, I spent the evening snooping around Maris's social media. What I found was a gold mine of incriminating stuff that told a whole different story than the sad one she's been selling. While she was crying poor to me and our parents, she was posting about fancy dinners, new outfits, and weekend trips. These posts were timed around when she was asking for those emergency loans. She was basically lying about her money situation to get sympathy and cash from the family. More shocking were the posts where she bragged about gaming the system and taking advantage of people who have more money than sense. She even posted screenshots of texts where she mocked me for helping her out financially. I took screenshots of everything and put together a file. Then I did something I never would have imagined 6 months ago. I started my own social media campaign. I wrote a detailed post about what went down at Maris's party, backed with images of my bruised face and stories from the few decent folks who saw the attack. I didn't need to exaggerate. The truth was bad enough. I also added Maris's own posts showing her lavish lifestyle while she was pleading poverty, and her nasty comments about those who helped her, stuff she had already made public. I let her own words expose who she really is. The post blew up among our friends and family. The reaction was wild. Tons of people came forward with their own stories about Maris's deceitful ways, unpaid debts, and her knack for exploiting family drama to get what she wants. Some guests at the party said they felt uneasy but didn't know what to do. Even better, Maris's current neighbors and Henry's old colleagues started sharing their own experiences. Maris had been spinning tales to borrow money for supposed medical issues and car troubles. Stories she had also told me. She was in debt all over town and was lying about why. The social media blitz served another purpose. It created a public record of Maris's behavior that she couldn't easily refute if she decided to take legal action against me. Her own statements, posts, and her well-established pattern of manipulation were all out there now. She showed up at my office 3 days after my post went viral. I was in a meeting when my assistant interrupted, saying my sister was there, and she looked pretty upset. There was Maris, pacing and gesturing wildly at my assistant through the glass wall. She looked even worse than the last time I saw her, disheveled, angry, and desperate. I told my client I'd have to reschedule because of a family emergency. As soon as I stepped into the lobby, Maris started yelling at me for posting that garbage about her online, accusing me of ruining her reputation. "Your reputation fell apart on its own," I replied calmly, knowing full well my co-workers were watching. "I just told the truth about what happened." She said I shared private conversations illegally. I explained that I only posted things she had put up publicly on her social media. Maris was furious. "You're spiteful, and everyone sees it now. Nobody sees you as the victim," she shouted. "Actually, the comments on my post suggest otherwise," I responded. "In fact, many people have reached out to share their own experiences with you." Maris made a big mistake then. She pulled out her phone to record me, trying to catch something she could use against me. "Say that again," she demanded, shoving the phone closer. "Tell everybody how you're ruining an innocent family because you're a bitter, childless woman who can't stand others' happiness." I smiled right into her camera. I stopped financial abuse and reported criminal activity to the right authorities. "If you're going to record this, let's make sure we get the facts straight." I took out my own phone and started recording. "Maris, are you going to deny that you and our parents planned to pressure me publicly into handing over my property? That Dad's been siphoning Mom's medical fund to give to you?" I asked. "He was just helping family," she replied, but she couldn't deny the rest. She had hoped to trap me, but ended up providing proof of her own wrongdoing. "Don't touch me," I said loudly as she reached for my phone, making sure everyone in the lobby could hear. "You've already been involved in one attack. I won't give you another chance." Security showed up right then, because my assistant called them when Maris started screaming. As they led her out, Maris tried one last threat. "This isn't over, Claire. I'm going to tell everyone what you're really like." I just replied, "They already know. That's your problem." Somehow, the security footage of our lobby showdown made it to social media too. It made it pretty clear who the real troublemaker was. The fallout was quick and brutal. Maris's remaining friends pulled back, and the family members trying to stay neutral suddenly picked sides, and it wasn't hers. Even Henry's parents, who had been giving them a place to stay, started asking tough questions about who their son had really married. But Maris wasn't done. My lawyer called about a week after all this happened. "Claire, your sisters hired a lawyer and they're threatening to sue you for defamation, causing emotional distress, and something about interfering with family relationships," he said. I almost laughed out loud. She's going to sue me for being honest about her behavior? They sent a letter demanding money, a public apology, and that I stop looking into their finances. "What do you think of their case?" I asked. "Honestly, it's weak," my lawyer said. "Everything you've shared is true or based on documented experiences. The truth is a solid defense against defamation. As for emotional distress, they'll have a hard time proving it because they started a public campaign against you. And interference with family relationships isn't a valid claim here." My lawyer paused, then said, "I think they're just trying to scare you into giving up." "They picked the wrong person," I replied. "Let's file a counterclaim." Within 6 weeks, things started falling apart for Maris and her crew. She and Henry were looking at foreclosure, bankruptcy, tax liens, losing their jobs, and even a visit from Child Protective Services. Dad was under investigation for elder abuse and fraud, with criminal charges on the horizon. Mom was now in professional care, and her finances were being handled properly. So I was safe, but totally bummed about Dad's lies. Meanwhile, I'm chilling at my vacation spot with Finn, sipping wine, and taking in the sunset over the mountains. Oh, and I started hanging out with this cool guy. Luke I met through a hiking club. He thinks my independence is super cool, not scary, which is refreshing. My phone was blowing up with calls from Maris, Dad, and even some relatives who had just watched me get humiliated without doing a thing. I blocked them all, except for Mom. I kept in touch with her, and saw her regularly at the care facility. She was having more good days than bad lately, and on those days she appreciated me for keeping her safe from Dad's financial shenanigans, even though she was heartbroken over his betrayal. "I always knew you were the strong one," she said one day, wishing she had been brave enough to see what was happening sooner. 3 months after the fiasco, Maris showed up at my place. She looked terrible, all skinny with dark circles and driving a beat-up Honda, probably because they lost their nice cars. "Claire, please," she said when I opened the door, "we need to talk." I told her I had nothing to say and started to close the door, but she stopped me. "Wait," she pleaded. "I know you're mad, but my kids don't deserve this. They're going to be homeless." I agreed her kids were innocent, which is why CPS was making sure they had a safe place to be. Maris was crying, telling me how humiliating the parenting classes were, and how Henry couldn't find a job because of his record. They were losing everything. "You already lost everything," I pointed out, "the moment you decided to embarrass me for not giving you what wasn't yours." She tried to brush it off as just words said under stress, but I reminded her she clapped when Dad hit me. She just looked down, admitting that was wrong. "No," I told her, "you don't get to downplay this. You planned my public humiliation and cheered as Dad hit me. Now you want my help because the consequences are hard." When she asked what she could do to make it right, I thought about it and said, "Nothing. You can't undo what you did." She talked about us being family, but I cut her off. "Family doesn't treat each other like that," I said. She begged, and I pointed out how she was all demanding and name-calling when she wanted my vacation home. Maris broke down at my door, and while a part of me felt bad, remembering the sister I used to know, I mostly recalled how humiliating that moment was for me. Through her tears, she said, "I'm sorry." I told her, "I'm sure you're sorry for facing consequences, but are you sorry for how you treated me?" She didn't have an answer that convinced me, and in the end, I shut the door on her. After that, I heard they moved in with Henry's parents in another state since they lost their home. Dad ended up pleading guilty to a bunch of charges for exploiting older folks financially, and those relatives who just stood by are now dealing with the social fallout. The legal stuff dragged on forever. The IRS investigations took about a year. The elder abuse case went on for 18 months, and Maris's financial mess was looked into by multiple agencies for over 2 years. As for me, I was thriving. I got a promotion since I didn't have to deal with my family's drama anymore, and my social life got way better. Finn and I spent our weekends at the cabin, hiking and relaxing. I started seeing Luke, and he loved how independent I was. I learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. I'd been lonely for so long, surrounded by family, who just saw me as a resource. Now, I chose to be alone, but I had real friends, meaningful work, and a self-worth no one could touch. Finn stayed by my side, and Luke became an important part of my life, valuing me for who I am. Honestly, I didn't break my family. They did it themselves with their selfishness and nastiness. I just stopped enabling them. People sometimes ask if I feel bad about what happened. Nope. I'm sad it turned out this way and that people I cared about weren't who I thought they were. But guilty? Not at all. They made their choices at Maris's party with their cruelty and public shame games. I just decided I wouldn't pretend their behavior was okay anymore. Last I heard, Maris was in retail, living paycheck to paycheck. Dad's legal troubles continued, affecting his health. The extended family is dealing with the social fallout of their involvement in elder abuse and financial fraud. Meanwhile, I'm writing this from my cozy vacation spot with Finn snoozing at my feet and cold coffee by my laptop. Luke's coming up for the weekend, and we're checking out this waterfall I've been wanting to show him. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine. It's real and filled with people who appreciate me for who I am, not what I can give them. That cabin everyone wanted? It's exactly what it was meant to be. A peaceful place for someone who worked hard to enjoy, surrounded by people who are there because they want to be, not because they think they're entitled to it. Sometimes getting back at people isn't about revenge. It's about letting them face the consequences of their actions. It's about building a life so fulfilling and authentic that those who hurt you did you a favor by revealing their true selves. The best revenge is just living well, and I'm doing just that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy hearing stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy hearing stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.